Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of CTVR 280, our employment skills online class. Going to go through rather quickly on this one, see how it goes. Give me some feedback if you're enjoying the presentations or if you'd like me to change them up. I'll be more than glad to, take any suggestions. This week we're looking at, three things really: the path to development, the path to producing, and the path to production. The distinction there is the line that I have drawn on the slide. You really have above the line and below the line is terminology that we use in entertainment, and it goes to the actual budget of a film or production. Everybody that works above the line, it's a physical line on the actual budget. Everybody that works above that line, you have the producer, the director, the actors, everybody that has basically skin in the game. They've got, ownership or a major part of the direction of the picture. Everybody that works below the line, extremely important jobs, certainly no less important than above the line, but they're more of the craft jobs. They're the editor, the assistant AD, the greens person, the production designer. All of those jobs, they might not necessarily have a stake or a percentage ownership of the film, but certainly still highly involved and great jobs, great opportunities. I have many friends in all of those crafts, and we'll be looking at those as we go through this week's presentation. But the distinction to remember is above the line and below the line. And then above the line, you really have two things to be thinking about. Are you going to be on that path to actually develop a property? Or are you just going to find something else to actually bring to market to option somebody else's content and produce that, find the money to make that, which we'll go through here shortly. I am your professor, Angelo Ford. You are welcome to contact me any of the methods here. Reach out to me on social media. Follow me on any of my professional channels that I use. I put stuff up to follow for students, recommendations for films, events that I might find applicable to the courses, all that kind of stuff. So you can find me on TikTok as Film Professor, no spaces, no underscore, or on Twitter and Instagram as Film_Professor. On either of those two platforms. Of course, you can email me directly at aford@saddleback.edu or on Canvas as well. Just another reminder, up there in the right-hand corner, you can go over to the recommended films. It'll take you to a letterboxd list for this course. These are all classes that I think are applicable for a job search, for job training, for inspiration. Everything from, movies like Rocky to Field of Dreams, Parasite, The Devil Wears Prada. I think each one of these in their own way contributes, to the idea of looking for employment in media, or gives a good insight into the overall process of what we do. So yeah, if you're looking for something to watch other than the standard, great classics like Citizen Kane or Chinatown, I think these are some good movies that'll, inspire you with the filmmaking process. So check those out if you're interested. Let's see. Get back to my slide. Yep. So that's pretty much it for that one. This week, like I said, major component. One of the chapters is Path to Development you'll be reading. It's really the above the line approach 1 or A, the first way we're looking at it. And this little graphic here, I like is it's silly, but it's a good reminder of the different ways to development. Are you making, different a television show? Is it going to be a film? Is it going to be a short story? Is it going to be, some kind of web series that you're going to publish yourself? All these different ways, like the little foot, the bus, the car. There's these different ways of. They're all transportation, but it's a different methodology or a different path that you're going to take there, and that's something to certainly consider when you're thinking about development of a property. The absolute first thing that I think you must do is start thinking about where you fit in all this. What is it that you enjoy? What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that people are willing to pay you for? Maybe you've worked on some sets as a makeup artist. People are willing to pay you for it because you're good at it, and you're able to do it cheaply for them, and it looks good. So you have to think about all that as you're going through. The first one in development for sure is screenwriting. Are you writing your own scripts? Or are you buying something? Are you optioning something from a friend that you're wanting to develop into an actual property? There's plenty of, as you can see, plenty of jobs in each one of these columns, whether it's story development, producing, directing, or casting. Big core of it is a producer. We hear that term thrown around just everywhere these days. What does the producer do? Well, the producer produces. The main producer produces the funds. They come up with the money, they find it, and bring it to the production, or they bring talent, or they bring a location. And then there's all kinds of different roles and responsibilities that you can look into. The co-producer, the assistant producer, the associate producer. Each one of these has a specific function that they're doing on a film. And I go through all of those in my Film 101 class, and in my when I teach Film 2, we go through all those in depth. And I think this slide right here is a really good one to stay on for a while. Where do you find yourself fitting in the overall portion of filmmaking? And everything you see here is, of course, above the line. We'll talk some more about the below the line in a little bit, but what's represented here is above the line, particularly in development. That process of fleshing out a script and then clarifying it before it gets greenlit or brought into actual pre-production. That's the core role of you at this point. When you do have a good idea of where you fit, then you should start thinking about your team. Who else is going to come on board? If you're going to be the screenwriter, well, then you're going to need to find a producer and a director, and maybe a casting director as well. And that's going to be your core team to move into pre-production with out of development. So really be thinking about that. Look through each one of these positions. You can read about them in our book, The Hollywood Game Plan, of course. Each one of them is in chapter 8, I believe. Chapter 8, the path to development. Like I said in the beginning, you can go through, and they do a really nice job with the writer, the producer, the line producer, the director, actor, executive producer. Really gives you a good overview of some of those above the line positions that you might want to consider working in. So that's definitely something to help guide you there. When you're creating content or you're acquiring content, you have to, like I said, you really fall into one of three slots. One is the producer. The producer is optioning material. He or she, maybe they're writing their own material, but it's not likely. The straight up producer is probably, they found a screenwriter, somebody's script that they really like, and they're producing it. They're optioning that material to bring it forward out of development into pre-production. Or the writer, they've actually written some great material and they've partnered with a producer to bring that forward. Then, of course, there's other, the quote unquote other. It could be some combination of both of those. It could be a director that's, written something or is producing something. But you need some combination of a producer, writer, director at a bare minimum to move your content forward. You can do it all. I certainly know filmmakers that do all of those hats, but it never gets done very well. Even the biggest names that you can imagine, Ryan Johnston, Steven Spielberg, all of the names of what we consider the great filmmakers, the great directors, Quentin Tarantino, they all have teams of people that are helping them assist with each one of these functions. And then into those others, of course, falls all of the crew positions in the below the line that we'll talk about shortly. Again, another path to producing, the second above the aligned approach, is you really focusing on the job of producer, which is bringing you're the capital. You're bringing the money to the production. You're hiring a writer. You're hiring a director. You're hiring a whole slew of producers. You're the one that's producing the financing for the film and actually driving it all forward. Where does that money come from is always the question people ask. A good component, I keep saying I need to put the percentages on the slide and I keep forgetting, but I can kind of show you what they are generally. About 20% there is private financing. That means that I, as a producer, I know somebody in my friends, family, fools circle that is willing to give me money to make my movie. So I'm bringing that either through myself, my own capital, or friends that are willing to, privately invest. And in exchange, they're getting that chunk of the pie. That 25% of the producing pie is theirs. So when that movie sells, they'll get that money on the back end. And a lot of times they're the first one to make their money back before money goes to anybody else. Next is pre-sales. As a producer, you'll go out and you'll meet with distribution companies and you'll cut deals for pre-sales where they'll give you a percentage of the money that they think it's going to make in a particular territory. This one is specifically for theatrical release, where you're getting another 15-ish percent of the pie, 20% of the pie. Next is soft money. Soft money is places like Louisiana, Georgia, Vancouver offer up to 40% soft money. So in other words, if you go to these places, you meet with the soft money financing local authorities, of each place, and they're going to basically write you a check, give you actual money if you guarantee to make the movie in their locale. They have tax incentives, rebates, if you will, where some of them, like I said, 40% of the movie. So if you have a $1 million budget movie, you're getting $400,000 from Vancouver to produce that in their sound stages up in Canada. Great deals. I've got links to a bunch of different places that have all this kind of thing. One of the best things about it is it really helps you get this seed fund, because if you can get $400,000 on a minimum on a minimum of $1 million, you can then go to a festival, a market, other places where you can raise money, and you can say that, hey, we've already got 400 grand to the bank, a pre-sale with so and so, and you're more likely to get private investor money if you already have some seed capital in there. So this is why you have runaway productions these days. You see so much getting made in Georgia, in Vancouver, in Louisiana, and Massachusetts, with California now being, I think, fourth or fifth, most productions in the world. You're seeing them in those other states now, and it's mostly because of that soft money. I think that's like another 10, 15%. Then you've got the TV pre-sales. It's not so much anymore. Streaming's really cutting into a chunk of this, and streaming doesn't really offer pre-sale the same way network television did. But you're still seeing a good chunk, good 10%ish, 13%ish, somewhere around there. Crowdsourcing is next. This one is really growing. It seems to plateaued a little bit. That you don't see so many movies getting made in this function, but I still do see Seed and Spark is a great one, Kickstarter, and of course Indiegogo are really the big three that you see crowdsourcing. And I do know friends that are raising good amount of money. I've seen movies raise as much as $4 million through crowdsourcing. And I've worked on several productions that have raised up to $75,000, $85,000 through crowdsourcing. So it's definitely an option, and it's worth looking into. In the green there, the light green color, you're seeing the studio productions. We all think of movies as getting paid for by studios, and it just does not work that way anymore. Warner Brothers, Paramount, all those big studio names that we know, they're not funding movies anymore. They're getting funded by other sources, and then those companies are simply doing the distribution of them. And maybe they're putting in some marketing money, which could be significant, but they're not putting in money to get movies made much anymore. We've got grants. This could come from the government. This could come from agencies. I know a friend of mine made a movie about battered women, and she was able to get some funds from local agencies that support, anti battering and mistreatment of women. There's tons of different organizations that support all of these things, and a lot of them like to contribute money to if they like the idea of what's being said and shown in the movie that supports their organization. And then finally, grants. You might be able to get a grant from the government or a particular agency. Maybe a religious movie might be able to get a grant, based on the particular aspects of the film. Or the government might be interested in, if you're making an anti-COVID-19 movie or something, whatever it is that happens to be the latest trend that government money is flowing into, you might be able to find some of that money. Veterans in particular, this is a great one. There's so many resources out there for veterans to be able to find money for films and specific festivals. So again, that is where the money's coming from. And where do you find it? These three options over to the right are the big ones. Going to festivals. I mean, I know we're not these days right now. We're not really engaging with COVID. But when we are going to the festival, shaking hands, bumping elbows, whatever it is, going to the screeners, interacting with other filmmakers, going to the after parties, talking about what projects you have. Awesome way to find capital and just meet with other people to build your team of what you're going to do. There's film markets all over the globe. Normally, we have a great one up in Venice every November called the AFM, the American Film Market. Really great one to go to as a young filmmaker. The Hong Kong film market, the German film market. If you can travel to these places, great sources of finding capital to make your money. They're global film markets, and the whole purpose of them is, people are selling film movies there. Usually B grade movies are being sold in the bundles, and buyers are going around buying 25 movies, and it's just a great place where people are willing to engage and talk about film financing. So that's another great source. And then, of course, going to and being involved in events, going to school, meeting other filmmakers who are willing to chip in. Their parents are willing to help pay for movies. Schools are willing to contribute in some aspects. If you join certain unions, the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, there's often ways to raise money or go to do contests through those organizations. And then, of course, fundraisers as well. The big, level fundraisers, going to actual cancer awareness events, where all these events that people are interested in learning more about how they how they can serve those causes and get word out there. So those are three big ones about where you can find that money. Make sure you go into chapter 8 and you do the exercise on page 87. I think it's a really good one. I think it'll help you. Good look. Yep, 87. It talks about, just going through your head and simulating the development of a crew. You're going to make a movie, sit down and actually, who would you want to be a writer? For real. Find one of your friends that will, sit and go through this exercise with you. Same thing for the director and the producer. But then boom, you've got a little team and you can go through the process of development together, moving into pre-production. And you can continue it all the way through and actually make a movie together. Or you can just, leave it there and kind of put it aside and go to another project to take it out of development, really work on that script, figure out how you're going to put it together, and move it forward until you have a few of them. A nice little production company to make movies on your own. Sample roles and see how they fit. Do you like directing? Do you like producing? Are you the type of person that engages and talks to people and likes trying to raise money, or are you timid and you don't really like that? And you want to write the movie and then you want to be done with it. These are all the things to think about. Sample above the line, below the line, and then, of course, the support roles as well. Just remember there's attorneys, there's accountants, there's tons of roles outside of the filmmaking process that you might find enjoyment in as well. Third one is the path to production. This is the below the line approach. This is chapter 9, I believe. Moving into chapter 9, which is finding a path to physical production and beyond, where we're looking at the actual job categories that are below the line. As you can see, whole plethora of them. You have everything from the locations all the way over to special effects, camera, art department, paint, craft services, greenery, transportation. You can see that there's literally dozens of different jobs. All of these roles have to be filled on even the smallest student production. Somebody has to do each one of these roles. And a lot of times it's one person doing multiple things. On a student production, you might have the cinematographer who's operating the camera. They're also doing the position of first AD. Maybe you have a second AD, that's also doing the clapper, doing all calling roles like with the first AD. So multiple people might be doing these, but somebody's fulfilling these roles to get the movie done. Over in sound, somebody has to be the boom operator, the sound mixer, the sound designer. It may be the same person, but somebody has to fulfill those roles. So when you're out in the real world, these are all jobs that need to be filled, and you can look for each one of these on various platforms that I'll mention in a little bit here. But just keep in mind, what these different jobs are. Read through the chapter and kind of get an idea of them. Do some looking up on them, and then give them a try if it sounds like something you're interested in. And you might find that you like a career on below the line, and you just wanted be on the movies, making the movies, and not being responsible for the management of getting them done. This also flows into post production as well. Once that movie's been shot, it needs to go to be edited. It needs the music added. It needs sound. It needs post-production processing, visual effects, all kinds of different jobs that you can find and most be interested in. The director will typically work with these teams. The producer will certainly work with these teams, and there'll be a post-production supervisor who's kind of bringing it all together. You can see the post-production supervisor, coordinator, and assistant there in the middle. Super critical, important jobs that often get neglected in student films and indie films. And then, you shoot a great movie and it just goes to hell or gets stuck into, post-production because nobody's really pushing it forward. So lots of jobs there that you can look into as well. I mentioned earlier about some platforms. This one is called staffmeup.com. You can find all kinds of jobs here. I just stuck in production assistant, which is a great first entry level position to go into some of these different realms and see if you like that particular category. 16,302 jobs came up across the country. Keep in mind that you might have to move. Those jobs aren't necessarily all in LA anymore, up in Hollywood anymore. They're in Atlanta, Georgia. You can see here, Kingston, North Carolina, huge. Those places are huge for productions. Still have some here in San Diego and LA that are worth looking into, and you'll find all kinds on Staff Me Up here. You'll find bigger, jobs for stars type of production, all the way down to like some YouTube thing down here, which might be a short being filmed in Mexico. So again, if you have the ability to travel, you speak another language, look into all these different opportunities for these jobs that are out there. And again, I've got the links on here in a couple slides ahead that you'll be able to look at them too, rather than just looking at these pictures. Mandy is a global resource for finding positions. I stuck production manager in there, production assistant in there. Tons of jobs coming up all over the world. One of them marked urgent right here, paid job in Glendale. You can click on and look into more. And I suggest that you highly do that with these. This one is Indeed. This is a regular job site, but they still have tons of great production jobs that get listed up on here. Here's one for Industrial Light and Magic, which is massive. Entry-level position to support that up in LA. DreamWorks, NBC is looking for one. So again, another great resource. You can use Indeed as well for looking up jobs and finding an overview on them. And it's great for just going through and looking what's required for the jobs, and then seeing if you have those skills or building those skills in case you do want to apply for one. So read through those listings, look for them, explore, kind of get an idea of what they're looking for, and then how you can meet that, like we talked about in our cover letters. Here's the links for Indeed, Mandy, and Staff Me Up if you want to check those out on your own. Tons more out there. Those are just some of the 3 that I like to look for. I usually have no problem finding jobs on those. Next up is the exercise for Chapter 9, which I meant to change this. I'm going to do it right now. 1 second here. It is not page 87. It is page 97, 10 pages later. So check out the Chapter 9 exercise on page 97. This one, choose a role. Look through those different categories that you see on the slide, and then learn 6 facts about that role. 6 facts about a director, 6 facts about a producer, whichever you're interested in. Look up and see what you can find on the internet about 6 facts. And what skills are needed for those jobs. What tools are you going to need? What kind of training are you going to need? Look all of that up. When you're doing this, really try to identify what interests you most. What appeals to you? What do you find enjoyment in? It might not be the most highest paying, but you find enjoyment in it. Find that balance, and build a portfolio that shows that you can do that job. And then build a reel, with some video clip. If you want to do cinematography, really build a reel that shows your lighting. If you want to do directing, build a reel that shows your ability to direct talent in the scene, show some emotional scenes, that type of stuff. And then if you're a producer, make a reel that shows you can produce great locations, you can feed the crew, you can have the bathrooms and everything that goes along with the production side of that you can manage it. So the recap for this week, we've had those 2 chapters to look through, 8 and 9. The big thing I want you to do that really is number 1 is identifying your interest. What is it that you find the most interesting? Which element? Directing, producing, writing, or some below the line crew position? Really figure that out. That's job 1 right now, is to try to identify what it is that interests you. Explore those. Get out and work on them. Go on student sets. Take a job as a PA in a production office, as a director's assistant, as a cinematographer's assistant. See if you're good at it. See if you like it. See if you're passionate about it. And then once you have the ability to do that, go through and commit to a position. Find somebody that's willing to pay you for it and start working that career path, and see where those positions lead. Hopefully, to identify your to bring you to the goal that you want to be ultimately, a director, a producer, a cinematographer, or some crew position. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoy the presentation. Make sure that you go to Canvas, look through the module. There'll be an assignment there for this week to do as well. And we'll catch back up again next week. I hope, again, you enjoy the slides, and stay safe out there, and we'll talk soon. See ya.